Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, a new report from San Diego's police chief on efforts to keep officers from breaking the law. And they look sort of like snack machines, but instead of chips or candy, they carry medical marijuana, and they could be coming to San Diego.
I'm Peggy Pico. Also ahead, drivers who refuse to answer border agents' questions at checkpoints.
Sir, are you a citizen?
I don't have to answer that question, sir.
What's that?
I don't have to answer that question. I'm sorry.
The video confrontations and debate over the right to remain silent. Plus, the Padres' opening game is just over 3 weeks away, and after last season's poor finish, new owners promise a fresh start, while the city attorney takes a swing at cable TV's game coverage. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The activist behind a video sting against Acorn has agreed to pay $100,000 to a former Acorn worker in National City. The activist is James O'Keefe. In 2009, you may recall, he and a partner went to the Acorn office posing as a pimp and a prostitute looking for federal housing money to set up a prostitution ring. They secretly taped their conversation with worker Juan Carlos Vera and then released it online. It was one of several videos at Acorn offices around the country. The community organization disbanded because of the bad publicity. An attorney general's investigation found the O'Keefe video was selectively edited. In today's settlement, O'Keefe says he regrets causing Vera any pain or suffering. A report from San Diego's police chief tonight says his department's getting fewer calls about police misconduct. The department set up a confidential hotline after a spate of investigations and criminal charges against 5 officers. Chief William Lansdowne says the hotline got 102 calls when it was first set up in May of 2011, but the calls dwindled over time and last December reported just 4. He'll present the report to a city council committee next week. Medical marijuana users in San Diego may one day be able to get their refills from a vending machine. City Council will soon consider an ordinance to allow the machines inside brick-and-mortar dispensaries. Now, to prevent fraud, the machines require a fingerprint and a prepaid card. Medical marijuana activists say technology should be explored, but nothing takes the place of the human touch.
Nothing replaces that patient-to-patient interaction that significantly improves patients' conditions when they're dealing with something like an illness or a serious health condition.
The company selling the machine says it hopes to put 30 around town. City Council is also expected to consider new rules to issue permits to dispensaries. The California Senate has approved more funding for a program taking guns away from people forbidden by law to have them. They include folks convicted of felonies or violent misdemeanors, those under a domestic violence restraining order, and anyone determined to be mentally unstable. California is the only state with such a program since 2006. It's been used to seize more than 10,000 weapons, but there's a backlog of nearly 20,000 people because there aren't enough agents to go after them. The new bill, by the way, provides $24 million to hire more agents. It's now headed to the state assembly. State lawmakers also approved 2 bills to expand Medi-Cal to more than 1 million low-income Californians. It's a step toward implementing federal health care reform, and it takes advantage of a federal promise to pay for the expansion over the first few years. Lawmakers still have to work out details with Governor Brown. Some dissent in bankruptcy proceedings for San Diego Hospice. A Georgia company says Scripps Health shouldn't get the business for free, and it's making a $1 million offer. Now, some creditors are also complaining about the Scripps deal, saying it cuts the amount of money left to pay them off. San Diego Hospice filed for bankruptcy last month while waiting for results of a Medicare audit. Its Hillcrest facility is set to be auctioned off next month. And we have extended coverage of troubles at San Diego Hospice online at kpbs.org/endoflife. Bakersfield police say no crime was committed last month when a staffer at a senior living facility refused to perform CPR on a woman who later died. The incident at Glenwood Gardens sparked a national controversy after tape of a 911 call was released. In it, the worker said performing CPR was against company policy. The company says she misunderstood the policy and they're conducting an investigation. But police say no laws were broken and they won't pursue any criminal charges. An issue over what to say when stopped at border checkpoints is being played out in video confrontations on YouTube. Peggy Pico explains why some activists say American citizens have the right to remain silent.
If you live in San Diego County, you've probably driven through one of the county's 6 roadside checkpoints, and a Border Patrol agent has likely asked you if you are a U.S. citizen. But do you have to answer that question? One group is refusing to answer, and they're posting their checkpoint confrontations on YouTube.
U.S. citizen, sir? Respectfully, sir, I do not have to answer that question. Sir, are you a citizen?
I don't have to answer that question, sir.
What's that?
I don't have to answer that question. I'm sorry.
I'm a private citizen. I'd like to freely travel down this road without having to answer questions from federal agents. Unless we're living in a police state, unless this is Mexico or Nazi Germany, it's still America, and I can travel down this road without having to answer questions from federal agents.
And all you have to do is say, I'm a U.S. citizen, and
right.
you'll be on your way.
But this is a matter.
You're making a big deal about it.
This is a matter of principle to me, sir.
Here to talk about the principle and about what the Constitution says about your right to refuse answering those types of questions is David Loy, legal director of the ACLU in San Diego and Imperial counties. Welcome back, David.
Thank you.
The constitutional argument that this gentleman and many are saying, what does that involve as far as your right to refuse to answer?
I think they're absolutely correct. Whenever questioned by law enforcement, all persons have the right to refuse to answer questions.
As far as your right to privacy, your right to revoke, to remain silent.
It's a right to remain silent. It's a right to privacy. It's a right to simply refuse to cooperate and refuse to answer questions.
Another issue is the checkpoints themselves. If they are constitutional, where does that stand right now?
The Supreme Court held in a case called Martinez-Fuerte that the government does have the right to set up interior immigration checkpoints near the border to assist in immigration enforcement. The ACLU strongly opposes those checkpoints. We think that checkpoints, suspicionless checkpoints, are the hallmark of a police state, not a free society. We think they're fundamentally un-American.
Let's hear what the Border Patrol has to say about it. We asked the Border Patrol to join us from San Diego. They declined, but they sent this statement which reads in part, Border Patrol immigration checkpoints do not give Border Patrol agents carte blanche to automatically search persons and their vehicles. Probable cause can be developed from agent observations, record checks, non-intrusive canine sniffs, and other established means. Let's talk about these other reasons why they are stopping you, let's say to check for illegal drugs. Are those any valid claims?
Well, the checkpoints stop everyone. And the Supreme Court held that the checkpoints have to be justified by immigration purposes. They cannot have the primary purpose of criminal law enforcement. The Border Patrol, in our view, is pushing that line very hard. I think there's a fair argument to be made that they've outlived their purpose and they're as much or more about criminal enforcement than immigration enforcement. The Supreme Court has been very clear. The government does not have the right to use checkpoints for general criminal law enforcement. And so I think we're getting close to that line.
Without probable cause, of course.
Well, a checkpoint, by definition, there is no probable cause.
Okay. I want to, since we're talking about checkpoints, I want to make a distinction here and see if you can clarify for us the DUI checkpoints, let's say throughout the city, for drunk driving. Do people who are stopped there have to answer, are you drunk, or any of the questions proposed there by local law enforcement?
No, I do not think so. The Supreme Court has upheld the right to conduct those kind of checkpoints, but no, I do not believe that anyone is obligated to answer any question that is asked.
When do you have to fork over your license or follow what an officer says at a checkpoint?
Only, in my view, when there is reasonable suspicion or probable cause that the person has in fact committed a traffic violation, and then you need the license to issue a citation or otherwise identify the driver.
What would you recommend, let's say, to your clients or people watching this when it comes to answering questions by Border Patrol agents at checkpoints?
That's a personal decision that each individual has to make based on their willingness to stand up for their constitutional rights and their willingness to endure the suspicion or persuasion that Border Patrol might try to exert upon them. But I always applaud anyone willing to stand up for their rights, because if you don't use your rights, you will lose them.
All right, we are out of time. David Loy, Legal Director for ACLU, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
President Obama has signed the Violence Against Women Act. It expands protections for victims of domestic violence and also for gays and Native Americans. The law had lapsed a year and a half ago in the middle of partisan bickering. Hugo Chavez will literally remain a constant figure in Venezuela, where his body will be preserved and on display forever at a military museum. The head of the Presidential Guard says Chavez died Tuesday from a massive heart attack. The 58-year-old was also suffering from some type of cancer. A state funeral is scheduled for tomorrow morning. The final Roman Catholic cardinal arrived in Rome today. Church leaders were waiting for all 115 to show up from various spots around the globe before scheduling their conclave to elect the next pope. But some cardinals want to continue their pre-conclave meetings as long as it takes to discuss the church's problems and figure out who's best qualified to lead the Catholic Church. San Diego home prices keep going up. The Association of Realtors says the median price of a single-family home was $410,000 last month, up $50,000 from a year ago. Some progress to report tonight for a pair of homeless shelters in the North County. The Operation Hope Shelter in Vista is open with 46 beds for families, and they're already full. Another shelter for farm workers is expected to open in Carlsbad in a few months. County Health Agency says the death toll from this flu season is the second worst on record. 48 people have died of the flu. Officials say the numbers are up because this year's strain is more severe than the past couple of years. They say it's not too late to get a flu shot. The H1N1 or swine flu pandemic is still the worst outbreak on record, with 58 deaths in San Diego County in 2009 and 2010. From celebrities to teenagers, rehab programs are widely accepted as the best way to treat drug and alcohol addiction. But new data shows it's not necessarily the case. Peggy Pico discovers the myths, truths, and alternatives to drug treatment centers.
If you look up drug rehabilitation and treatment centers in San Diego County, you'll find a long list of options. How do you decide which is best, and do these programs really work? Anne Fletcher, author of Inside Rehab, The Surprising Truth About Addiction Treatment and How to Get Help That Works, is here with me with some of these answers. Now, Anne, going into rehab is a phrase that we hear often, especially among celebrities, but we don't hear much about what happens afterwards. What did you find typically? What does happen? Are we talking group therapy? What happens?
That's what I wanted to know. And I even found that a lot of experts in the field, I'd previously written a book on this, really didn't know what happened once you stepped inside. So I decided to go inside myself. I visited 15 programs from coast to coast, everything from outpatient programs that treat indigent people to high-end celebrity rehabs and programs in between.
What surprised you most with that?
Oh boy, what surprised me the most? Well, there were a lot of things. One is that the more you spend doesn't necessarily mean that you get better treatment. A lot of people think that, if I spend a lot of money, I'm going to get better treatment. Sometimes it means that, but lots of times I found some very good quality treatment at some programs that treat low-income people, where they really address the whole person, get them going back to work, back to school. So there were a lot of surprises. Another thing that really surprised me is there's a big gap between science and practice in this field. There are a lot of things that we know that are effective for addiction treatment, and they're not going on in most addiction treatment programs in this country. I talked to a lot of experts who study addiction treatment, so this isn't just coming from me. Looked at the studies.
And it's a complicated treatment. This is not something like stop using drugs and we're going to help, it's something that simple. Your book, you come from your own experience, correct? Did you seek treatment for your addiction?
I didn't. I had a serious drinking problem, and one of the big myths is that you have to go to rehab. When people say to me, well, what should I do? The knee-jerk reaction is you have to go to rehab. First of all, rehab can be residential treatment where you go away for, that's the thing that you think, 30 days or longer. Most people in this country don't go to residential treatment. Most go to outpatient treatment where you're going for a couple of hours a day, usually a couple of times a week. And that's just as effective in the research studies as residential treatment.
And we have some of those centers here, the Smart Recovery, correct? That's not
Smart Recovery is not treatment. Smart Recovery is like AA. AA and Smart Recovery are self-help groups. And Smart Recovery is an alternative to AA that uses a different philosophy. So they're two different things. They're not treatment.
How do those AA and Smart Recovery type programs compare to success rates compared to, let's say, inpatient treatments?
They're completely different. They're not the same thing. They're not treatment. One of the problems in this country is that our treatment programs, whether they're residential or outpatient, most of them have adopted AA as a form of treatment, and it really wasn't meant to be a form of treatment.
It was meant for support?
It was meant for support. And even the original teachings of AA were not designed to have it be used that way. And AA is great when it works. It works for a lot of people, but we find that as many as 8 out of 10 people drop out of AA within the first year. So it's a problem when you find that about 7 to 8 out of every 10 programs in the country are using AA as a major basis of their treatment and not telling people about alternatives like Smart Recovery, which would be an alternative support group.
And I want to ask you about that. I know the Betty Ford Center is typical of some of the high-end places as far as treatment.
It's not a place I visited,
right.
But it's a typical what we call a 12-step-based Minnesota model program.
And $30,000 about for a 30-day stay there. Expensive. What sort of alternative centers are there if people do want to be in a treatment program, let's say, versus AA or out there?
Yes, and I visited some what would be called non-traditional, and I'm not talking about herbal places. I'm talking about places that provide non-12-step based treatment, that provide more what's called cognitive behavioral, more science-based treatment, more of what the studies show to be effective. I could give you some names of examples of programs. There's one on the East Coast called Center for Motivation and Change. I didn't visit that program. There's a place here called Practical Recovery that I visited. There's one in Minnesota called Altier. So there are programs across the country. I'm sure there are many others. Many university-affiliated programs are using more science-based approaches.
So lots of choices out there.
And I give examples for how to find people who provide, individual therapists who provide science-based treatment.
And we can find out more about that on our website, where people can follow some links that you have actually recommended at kpbs.org. So Anne Fletcher, thank you so much for talking with us.
I'm Gwen Eiffel on the next News Hour, a newsmaker interview with House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. That's Thursday on the PBS News Hour.
We've removed a bunch of clutter, so now there's even more room for the things your friends are sharing. You see all the stories you saw before, they just have a fresh new look. You also have some new feeds.
Another makeover for Facebook. The social networking site has updated its news feed, the homepage where users get updates on what's happening in their own social network. The company says the news feed will be more like a newspaper with information tailored for each user. The redesign is an attempt to keep users coming back so Facebook can sell more ads. The Facebook status for linebacker Takeo Spikes might be available. San Diego Chargers have released him. It's the team's first major move under new general manager Tom Telesco. It puts the team about $10 million below their salary cap, giving the Chargers some room to go shopping when free agency starts next week. Padres spring training is in full swing in Arizona. The Pods finished next to last in the National League West in 2012, but the team has new owners, and it's looking for a new start. Peggy Pico is asking what fans can look forward to this season.
With opening day a little more than 3 weeks away, Time Warner Cable has still not agreed to broadcast Padre games via Fox Sports in San Diego. In the meantime, sports writers and fans are raising questions about the team's low budget and failure to sign talented players. Bernie Wilson, Associated Press sports writer, is here to talk about the battles ahead on and off the field. Welcome.
Thank you.
I do want to mention before we get started that we put out many calls to the Padres to come and join this conversation, and they didn't get back to us.
I think that's going to be their MO. They want to remain low-key.
Well, so far, they're right on the money
doing
for
a good
that.
job of it.
Now, bring us up to speed as far as how the players are looking right now in spring training.
Well, they're 0-0 like everybody else. Good and bad. Jed Jerko, the second base prospect, is hitting well. Well, that's good for spring, but it really doesn't matter until, you know, he comes up with a big league team and starts doing it there. There's trouble like catcher Yasmani Grandal, 50-game suspension for testing positive for testosterone. Everett Cabrera is under suspicion in the biogenesis case. Buddy Black, the manager, thinks it's not going to be a big deal. He trusts what Cabby says, but he should probably wait and see what Major League Baseball says.
This is sounding grim, I have to say, as you're
and,
rattling
well,
this.
There's one more. Today, another top prospect, Donovan Tate, that Padres announced will not be reporting for spring training because of the proverbial personal problems. He's had a miserable time so far in his career with injuries on an ATV. He had a drug suspension for the synthetic marijuana. Neither of those are good, and he could be another bust like Matt Bush.
Well,
and an expensive one.
Let's talk about money, because I seem to recall after the $800 million sale to the O'Malley Group, last August, that promises were made that we're going to boost the payroll. Did that happen?
It happened technically through arbitration, which added about $15 million in raises to guys like Chase Headley, who got a nice raise. Some extensions that were given last season, which is sort of gray area on, increasing the payroll. The only real addition was $3 million for Jason Marquis, the starting pitcher. But they didn't go out and bring in a big-name free agent, and I think that's what fans really wanted to see.
And their budget, I believe, around $56 million is one of the lowest?
Well, last year, in previous years, I believe their player payroll is up to about $68 million right now. That could change. But, they're saying they don't want to spend money for the sake of spending it, but the fans are saying, give us somebody, who they can get excited about.
It's not all bad news, I have to say. CBS Sports named Carlos Quinton the sleeper of the season, for whatever that means.
Congratulations to him, but he needs to stay healthy. He had knee issues last year. He's a slugger, he's intense, he's a good player, but if you're not on the field, you're not slugging and you're not intense. Maybe that's why he's
really
the
sleeper.
Yeah.
What's your best case scenario for the upcoming season for the team?
If they could finish 81-81, maybe the city should throw them a parade. It's been dismal. Playoffs are probably out of the picture. They play in a tough division where the Dodgers aren't afraid to spend money, the Giants aren't afraid to spend money, and they have a knack for putting personalities together. And the Diamondbacks could be good, too. So.
That being said, still, good Padre fans, about 22% of them in this county, still aren't able to watch the Padres on TV because of this impasse with Time Warner Cable and Fox Sports San Diego. Today, City Attorney Jan Goldsmith weighed in on this situation. What was said?
I believe he said that about the only thing is to get Time Warner Cable's attention is if people switch service, drop service, whatever, vote with their pocketbook, essentially. I mean, a cynic might say those viewers are lucky because they can't watch the Padres. I've heard that several times.
That's a terrible thing to say.
It's terrible but true. And believe me, I'm not claiming originality. I've heard people say that. But there are people who like watching their beloved Padres, and if they can't get it there, then they need to try to find a satellite provider or something else. But, Time Warner starts a big 7-year, $25 billion deal with the Dodgers next year. They have the Lakers. They probably don't think they need the Padres to survive. So
it's not you're right. It's not a big deal for them at this point. I do want to let people know there's a public hearing at City Hall next Thursday where they can come and make their comments. Do you think that'll change anything?
No.
Yep.
No, absolutely
All righty.
not.
We are out of time. Bernie Wilson, thanks so much for the update.
Anytime.
The name of the Padres harkens back to San Diego's origins. Tonight, Ken Kramer gives us the history of another San Diego name, and it's a bit grisly.
Oh, I think it's been a long time since anybody lived here in this old adobe building, baked by the sun, blown by the wind, and scorched by fire. It's all that remains now of what was once a house in Bear Valley. Look on some maps. See it? Bear Valley. Makes you wonder if there ever was a... Oh! Well, now there is a bear. a California grizzly like the one for which it turns out Bear Valley was named. See, the story is that in this valley well over a century ago, there was a huge grizzly bear. I mean, a 2,200-pound bear, biggest one ever seen in California. It had been killing animals, terrorizing people around here, and out behind this house, they finally shot and killed the bear, brought it to a neighbor's ranch, weighed it more than a ton, and from that point on, it was called Bear Valley. There were Bear Valley peaches sold. You can see a big grizzly's got a guy up a tree. Tree-ripened Bear Valley peaches from Haskell Farms. One taste is worth 100 words, the label said. A pure product of Bear Valley. Today, the house on the property where the bear was shot is pretty much gone. A few miles away at the Historical Museum, they've got a stuffed grizzly that's very big and scary, but not as big as the legendary bear that Bear Valley was named for more than a century ago. And even though you still see the name, Bear Valley, here and there, the official name of the town near where it all happened has been changed from Bear Valley to Valley Center. In case anybody ever asks you that question about San Diego.
And Ken says Bear Valley got changed to Valley Center because the U.S. Postal Service already had a Bear Valley post office. If you want to see more of Ken's stories about San Diego, his half-hour show can be seen tonight and every Thursday night at 8, right here on KPBS. Tonight's stories are online at kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.